that Mr. T used to be a bouncer. He used to beat fools up if they got out of line, or they came up here on that bullshit. You know, he wasn't playing around. And yeah, your chain might end up, you know,
Hey,
re rehomed.
did you know that you're on a podcast? Yes, you're on a podcast. History and whatever.
Like, you ever been to see Tony Baker? His fans, bro, they're fucking, bro. They say his shit. They say his quotes, skibbity paps, and I never knew people be saying this in regular conversation.
Oh wait, that's the skippity pap guy.
Yeah,
Man,
Tony
I've seen
Baker.
lots of those TikTok videos, man. I'm definitely a big fan of the skippity paps, man.
Yes, skibbity paps, and he made that up.
Oh yeah, every time I get those videos, man, I'm like, oh yeah, it's the skippity paps. Well, speaking of, man, actually, we might as well get into it because that really lends us to the topic on the podcast today. Because, I mean, talk about somebody who built a brand, right?
Right.
Mr. T. So, hey, actually, let's take a minute and I'll just introduce myself and the podcast. So, this is History and Whatever. And I'm James Manning the third, and my guest today is Dejan Tyler. Right? Tell us a little bit about yourself, man. Where you're at, and what's going on.
Well, I'm from Sacramento, California. That's where I started comedy. At a poetry room, actually, called Talk Back Tuesdays. I'm about 17, almost 18 years in. In that time, I've recorded an album and various other odds and ends in the end.
Oh yeah,
I'm
well
comedy, man. Yeah, I love
the
doing it.
album the album's got a great title too. Get Rich or Diabetes. Um, I I love the title, and we were talking yesterday. I told you about how much I loved your album, man. It's just I still really appreciate it. Like I listened to it twice. It's so smooth. Great producing on that, and let me see. It was David Dorson. Was that his name?
David Drozen, man. Yeah,
Drozen.
man, and my condolences to his family, and rest in peace, Mr. Drozen. He gave me an opportunity, and man, pleasure to work with. He's done a lot for comedy. So the way I met him, I was in a comedy competition, and he was one of the judges. I didn't win the comedy competition, but there was no money involved anyway, which I didn't really realize. It was just the award was more work, which is good though. Still money, but you know, but he approached me, said, "Man, I like your comedy. I want to work with you." I did not know who he was at first, and then I went and I googled him. You know what I'm saying? Like, who is this guy? And I was like, "Oh wow, okay." He's got Grammys for Richard Pryor albums. He's produced George Carlin. I mean, some of the greats, some of the new guys, Paul Conyers, Alex Elkin, I think Lonzo Bowden too. A lot of man, his roster, the Uproar Records comedy roster is very, very, very deep, and so I was just honored to be a part of it. But the album, like I say, is called Get Rich or Diabetes because it's actually a play on 50 Cent's album. Because his album Get Rich or Die Trying, that was one of my that album was very inspirational to me, man. I love that album. And then I was thinking like I almost wanted to do a parody of 50 Cent's album cover on the front, but I decided I said I'm gonna leave that alone, man. So but yeah, so with that, also, I found out I was on a borderline diabetic, so I was like, well, shit. I hope I can get rich first.
You- well, it's just like it's such a great play on words too. It's like you got a joke on the cover of the album. So I, I really yeah, I like the album. That's why I wanted to bring it up, man, and give a shout out to Uproar and the late great David Drozen. So but yeah, so everybody make sure you check that out. It's on Spotify. It's everywhere albums can be found.
Everywhere,
So
even
yeah,
Audible.
even Audible,
Oh, yeah,
and
yeah.
it's Make sure you get a listen to that because I was dying, dude. That dollar store candy. Oh my gosh. I'm not going to give any of it away. It was just so good.
Thank you, brother.
But and actually this podcast though comes about because we were hanging out outside of the Savage Henry Comedy Club and we started talking and somehow Mr. T got brought up and we started talking about like how crazy a character Mr. T really is. Like you know, so it's kind of hard. Like where do we start with Mr. T? Like do you remember when you were a kid and being exposed to Mr. T?
Yeah, man. When I was a kid, okay, I'm in my 40s, man. I'm 45. So when I was a kid, that was like the like the 80s was just popping. Like I was born in 77, so you gotta think like I was 1980. So I would say for me, cognizance starts maybe around like most people remember like maybe when they were 5, when you're early, some of your earliest like clear memory. Mr. T is from wrestling to Rocky to he was the coolest. That Mohawk, I was Mr. T for Halloween. It was like when you remember those little plastic cheap ass Halloween costumes. It came in one box and it was like a vinyl fucking like jumpsuit with it had the chains painted on it, like, and then it had the mask that had the elastic strap.
Oh yeah, that plastic mask.
Yeah, the one that cut your eyeballs up and shit.
Yeah.
That's
Oh
what
yeah,
it is.
that's
I had Mr. T, man, and I wore that. I wore it for 2 years. The second year I wore it, bro, it was like damn near like the legs went down to like my calves. I was way too old for. I was way too. I had a growth spurt, man. But I was like, I'm still gonna do this, and I'm still gonna be Mr. T.
well, still good. I mean, well, Mr. T is one of these characters that I didn't realize that it's not a character. Mr. T is literally Mr. T. Even in the A Team, he's Mr. T. In Rocky 3, he's Mr. T. In everything else he ever does, he's still Mr. T. And that's really uncommon for an actor, right?
You know what? You're right. Like this, he's never. Even he had a cartoon too. He's
Oh,
never not Mr. T. You right. Like he's always Mr. T. I mean, his name might be different. B.A. Baracus.
yeah. Well, he was born Lawrence Trudeau, I believe, and that's what it was like. He worked for Muhammad
Well,
Ali at one point too, who changed his name,
I think
but
it's
his
Thoreau.
name,
And only reason I'm
Lawrence
stopping you
Trudeau.
because if you say his name wrong, I mean, this is Mr. T. If he hears this and we're saying his name wrong the whole podcast, it's like I don't think it's gonna be good.
This is the only time I'm gonna use that name, and out of the respect of Mr. T, we're not gonna say it anymore because I think you're right, and that's really not important anyway. But he was born May 21st, 1952, Chicago, Illinois, which he still resides in Chicago, and his checks and his ID and all of his everything, his legal name is Mr. Period T. I discovered that too. I was
What?
like, wow,
Now
this
that
guy.
I didn't know that legally it's Mr. T.
Oh, it is quite legally Mr. T. And there's a bunch of interviews of him explaining that out, to people. And then that was one of his quotes too. First name, Mr. Middle name, period. Last name, T. And that's the truth.
So how did you first like how were you first introduced to Mr. T? Just out of curiosity, like
It's got to be Rocky 3. Or there's, like you said, Mr. T's like a merch machine. This guy had car wax. He had air fresheners for your car. He had a Mr. T doll. He's got one of those things that you press the button and it does his catchphrases. I pity the fool and, all that stuff. So I probably was exposed to that because I was born in 88. But the thing is in that time, in the early 90s, he was doing stuff like wrestling with Hulk Hogan. The A Team, I guess, was a little bit after Rocky 3, but me and my dad watched all the Rockies, of course. And back in the day, I loved me some wrestling, so Mr. T was all over the place, and of course reruns. I remember seeing like reruns of the A Team, but he was really just like one of these big personalities that was kind of always around.
Yeah, I can't.
Right?
Yeah, back in the day, like Mr. T was pretty much everywhere. So you couldn't like really avoid Mr. T. Cartoons. I don't know. He might have had a cereal, to be honest. I don't even know.
Yeah,
Like, I wouldn't be
he
surprised if
did.
he did. Did he have a cereal?
He did have a cereal.
Okay,
Yes,
so
it
yeah,
was
he
like
everywhere.
yeah, it was like Captain Crunch almost, but it was Mr. T cereal. You know?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, wow. That's crazy, man. You know how big you got to be to have your own cereal?
He was as big as it gets, really. I mean, as far as an actor goes, there's probably nobody who was more famous during the time because he was more than just an actor who played different roles. He was Mr. T in every role. So like that was kind of a really brilliant marketing scheme, I thought.
I wanted the mohawk too, man. I want the mohawk so bad, but there's no way that my mom was gonna let me, what I'm saying, cut my hair into a mohawk. Was not gonna. But I wanted. I was like, man, because I was like, this will make my costume like authentic. Can I get the mohawk? And she was like, nah, no, no,
No,
no, you cannot. No, 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 you cannot. But I
no,
wanted.
she just wouldn't want the idea of you just going bald the next day, even if you couldn't keep the mohawk, you could just go for Halloween.
You know what? No, wasn't happening. Wasn't happening. Cutting
No.
my hair wasn't happening. No, I can't even. And I had an old school barber back in the day. He was old school. He would have not. He wouldn't have did it. He'd have been like, "A what? Oh, yeah, no, he wouldn't have did it. He would. He was like,
your
I ain't
barber
doing
would
it.
have been like, no.
Yeah, he was one of the barbers that he gave you the haircut that he thought you needed. You know what I'm saying? You didn't get the haircut you wanted. You got the haircut he thought you needed. You know what I'm saying? He's like somebody, yeah, I want this kind of haircut, and I want three parts over here, and I want a design. He was like, you got a job? No, you ain't getting all that. You know?
Yeah, this is what $10 is gonna get you, bud,
No,
or
you
whatever. Yeah.
you could pay him 20, he wouldn't do it. He's like, you need a job. You're not gonna get a job with all that stuff in your head. I'm not doing it. I'm gonna give you a regular.
Oh,
I need a job haircut, so you can go get employed and come back and get your 20 line.
well, he was looking out for you in that case, huh?
Yeah, yeah.
It's like, well, I need the mohawk so that I can go get feather earrings and a whole bunch of gold.
Bro, that was the big thing back in the day. The earrings in the '80s with the feathers, like like the Native American kind of swagger jack. That was the thing back in the day.
Oh, I in my research,
Moccasins.
man, I saw some of the most flamboyant get-ups I've ever seen. I mean, okay, so one of the videos that I saw actually had there was a point. I'm trying to get into my history brain now because like I want to talk about the crazy get-ups that I saw, but there's a strange progression with Mr. T. So he started off with like nothing. He was like one of 11 children, I believe, and they were living on like $86 a month or something like that. And so he actually graduated from school, I think, like high school, and he went into the Army National Guard and was like Army police. He was like military police force in the National Guard. And when he got out, he tried out for the Green Bay Packers, and he didn't make it with the Packers. Like, I guess he had a knee injury, and a lot of sources were like, well, it's kind of a good thing that happened because then we wouldn't have had Mr. T if he was playing football. So that's kind of interesting. Like, I didn't know that he was in the military and that he tried out for the Packers. But let me see. And then after that, he got into a club. And this club, he was starting to work there with these guys as a bouncer, but he didn't. They wouldn't pay him. He just kind of like helped out one time, and they're like, "Well, we're not going to pay you, but you can eat as much as you want," which turned out to be costly. And that's where he started, kind of gaining this reputation. Because at this point, he had nothing. Like, this guy was broke. Mr. T was broke. He was trying to just make it, you know. And I think this is what we were talking about outside the club at Savage, because he was like, let me see, the club was called Dingbats. And since he was bouncing, one of the ways that he would acquire these gold chains is that the guys that he worked with would just pick up stuff that people left and never came back for, or they would just take it off the guys they were bouncing out and give them to T.
You know what? That's what I heard. Yeah, because that's what we did talk about how Mr. T got his chains, and because that's what I, like. And I'm glad you actually went and did the. That was just something I had heard. You know what I'm saying? Like, I didn't. It was. I won't say it was common knowledge, but like like me and my cousins and stuff like that, we talk about these type of things. And I don't even remember where I heard it, but I just knew I knew that. I don't know how I heard it somewhere, but yeah, that Mr. T used to be a bouncer and used to beat fools up if they got out of line, when they came up here on that bullshit. He wasn't playing around. And yeah, your chain might end up,
Hey.
rehomed.
Yeah, well, it was like, a lot of times they wouldn't even come back to try to get their chains back because they just, Mr. T.
Yeah, I heard some of them will come back and just not say nothing. Some will come back and they see their chain on him and I just want to get in. I'm not even gonna fight this time. Nice chain though. All right, Mr. T. They can't. Some of them came back. You got to look at him with it. Come on, man.
Well, that's a nice reminder that you can't beat that guy up. And man, this guy, at this point, he's like 25 or 26 years old, and Mr. T was a very fit, buff guy at that time, and coming out of the military and the other trainings that he'd had, man, he really was able to just beat fools down. And that actually is one of the ways that he got discovered. He's always wearing this gold and stuff, and he got this reputation as being a really like badass bouncer. And they started these guys that he was working with, the owner and a couple of his like friends at the time, they started these rumors about how he was a bodyguard and he was the best bodyguard around, and they started saying these crazy names of people he's bodyguarded for, and that actually ended up getting him bodyguard jobs.
Wait, so
and
that wasn't so it started. I didn't know that. I didn't know it started out. They were like, man, I didn't know it happened like that. I thought he really was bodyguarding all these people.
Well, the thing is in the beginning, they started a rumor that he was bodyguarding for these really famous folks. And because of that,
to get him on,
he did. Yeah, like he really did get to be a bodyguard, and he was starting to become really well paid for these bodyguards, because I saw some of this stuff that said he got paid between $3,000 and $10,000 a day. But that's when he actually was being a bodyguard for Steve McQueen, Michael Jackson, Diana Ross, Muhammad Ali, and Joe Frazier, to name a few. There was probably a lot more than that.
Wow.
Yeah, how badass is that? You're like, yeah, I'm a bodyguard for two of the best heavyweight boxers in the world. Yeah.
Yeah. And also, he won. I think he won Tough Man too, a couple times.
So there was a TV show where Mr. T was competing for the baddest bouncer competition or something like that, and they had these crazy events. Like they had a little person toss or something like that, where they would just grab a guy and see how far they could throw him. And there were these crazy events. Like one of the events was boxing, where they put the bouncers in the rings and boxed, and Mr. T won that 2 times in a row.
Oh man, I
And it
mean,
was
so he's like, so the thing is, he's the real deal. He's not like an actor um, that's playing the dude. He really is that dude. Like his credentials, everything like checks out. Like he really is that guy.
he really is that guy. And that was what was so interesting to me is like I always thought this was just like an icon, a character that he played when he was out, like a lot of wrestlers do. When they put the gear on, they are that wrestler. You know, that's just how it was. But Mr. T, no, Mr. T was Mr. T all the time. And yeah, he was the real deal, and that's supposedly that's how he got onto Rocky 3 is they saw him on television doing this baddest bouncer or best bouncer competition. I can't remember the title exactly. And they just were impressed by that, and the fact that he was about the same height as Sylvester Stallone, and the reason why he got the role over other folks was because he could speak and he could act and he could remember his lines, and the other people who auditioned just didn't do so well.
Okay, now hold on. Let's Sylvester Stallone. I don't know how. No, I just had to look it up real quick. They said he's Mr. T's 5'10". All right, I didn't know. I always thought Mr. T was like at least 6'2". You know what I'm saying? Like, because like I still don't believe he's 5'10". I think he's just doing that to make people feel better about themselves. Because I know Sylvester Stallone is very tiny, and I can't see them being the same height. Then that means Mr. T is no.
Well, they might not be. They might not be the same height, but they could at least look eye to eye. So they could be off a couple inches, but I think Joe Frazier really was like 6'4" or something like
Oh
that,
yeah,
wasn't he?
that would have looked crazy. It'll look like Mike
Yeah.
Tyson Punch Out. You know how little Mac looks?
Yeah, oh yeah. Oh, I played a lot of that.
Dude, that was my jam. Like everybody plays. I've never beat Mike Tyson though. I could never beat to beat Mike Tyson. You had to have like I just didn't have the. I don't know. I
Yeah.
got. Did you ever beat him?
No, I never made it that far. Glass Jaw was easy, and I could usually beat Soda Pop Penske, but I didn't make it too far after that.
Oh, man. Soda Pop this Iron was it Iron Tiger, the dude with the little turban and the shit would blink.
Oh yeah.
That was racist. But like, who just fights? Who gets in the ring with a turban on? That's come on, bro. Like some of the shit. Soda Pop, he's drinking in the ring.
Yeah, because that's what you need when you're a boxer is some soda. That's really gonna help you fight.
And then, did you notice that the trainer, the little Mac, the trainer, the black dude that he looks exactly like fucking Carl Winslow from Family Matters.
Yeah, he was riding the bike,
Yeah,
yelling at him. Yeah. See, and that's an 80s, early 90s game, right?
yeah.
Well, I wouldn't be surprised if Mr. T had a video game too. I wonder.
He should have. Like even right now, I would be down to play. An 18 video game would be dope. A multiplayer 18 video game. You can be Murdoch, Face, B.A. Baracus, Hannibal. I know the whole show. I was an 18 fan. That's was Mr. T's biggest influence because we were big 18 fans, me and all my cousins, and Mr. T was like we always wanted to be Mr. T. Like
of course.
We would play 18. We would pretend we were the 18, but somebody like, okay, we fight over who gets to be Mr. T.
Fighting over who gets to be Mr. T. Well, that's the best one. It looks like there actually is a Mr. T game. It looks like a board game, though. Yeah, so I guess he didn't have a video game, but a board game. Because one of the things that he was all about was kids. So he was always trying to help kids in any way he could, and he always donated money and stuff to children's organizations, and he put out a rap album, a couple of albums that were focused on giving good messages to kids.
I vaguely remember the Mr. T rap. I would say, nobody's perfect. Uh, and for that time frame, you know, for that time frame, like to be honest, like that's something like you now you look at it because rap has evolved. But at that time, because it's Mr. T, that was the dopest shit ever.
Oh yeah, well, it's easy. It's kind of strange for us to think about how it is now versus what was going on there because like I'm looking at it right here, Mr. T's Commandments, 1984. So there wasn't a whole lot of rap to listen to get your ideas from in 1984.
Well,
Not to mention Access, right?
yeah, well, they treated rap as kind of novelty. So like you'll see a lot of people doing little corny raps. You know what I'm saying? Like, hey, my name is something that I'm here to say. I hate any rap that starts out like that. Like, my name is something I'm here to say. I immediately tune out. I'm like, I don't want to hear what you have to say. Like that whole little, and they got like some old white lady with a backwards hat on, and she's in the wall. Like they put rap on everybody. So it,
Yeah.
it was a gimmick in the '80s. Yeah, a lot of people busted out some rhymes.
Oh yeah, and
That
they're kind of fun to revisit. And there was like he put out this basically a long music video. It's called Mr. T Be Somebody or Be Somebody's Fool in 1984 where there's like a bunch of song and dance, true 80s style, you know.
I'm looking it up right now.
Yeah, I'm looking at this stuff too because it's like once a treat your mother right, you know.
Okay, I've
He's
seen some of these before. Yeah.
Yeah, when I look at him too, I'm like, I remember some of this stuff. I don't remember the songs, but I remember seeing the the cartoon, you know,
Right. Miss
and yeah.
Treat your mother right. This the one. Hold on. This I think. Yeah. Yeah. He pulled that microphone out and started doing that two step. Yeah, that wow. But you know what? Only Mr. T can do that. Like nobody's judging Mr. T. Like, okay, hey man, for the kids, do your thing. Like anybody got anything to Mr. T?
Oh, nobody's gonna say anything to Mr. T because he would slap the shit out of you.
And he's
I
doing it
mean,
for the kids. I mean, he's doing it for a good cause. Like not a lot of celebrities
oh yeah.
genuinely care about the kids. I think, yeah, like as far as like the, I don't know if you've ever met any like people that you were like, like fans of, or if you ever met somebody that you really like, or and been disappointed because the person that you idolize is not the same person in real life. You know what I'm saying? Like that's happened to, especially in comedy. Sometimes you meet, oh, let's do the assholes. You know what I'm saying? It can happen. But I honestly feel like Mr. T would actually be what you see is what you get. I think if you met Mr. T, he'd be Mr. T, 100%.
No, I actually completely agree with you because there's the for some reason I started thinking about one of the videos that I watched, which was actually when Mr. T was on Howard Stern. So Howard, you know how Howard Stern is. He got to this question and he asked Mr. T. It was something like, "I heard that there were kids and they ran up to your limo and they were so excited that it was Mr. T that they flung open the door and you were in there getting oral sex from someone." And he went, Mr. T looked like he was going to get up and beat Howard Stern. He was like, "Who said that? I'll slap that fool." He was really ready to he could not contain himself. He was so angry.
Was Howard Stern just fucking around?
He said that he heard it. It was like a rumor, but Mr. T was not having that, dude. He was not having it. It's a pretty funny video to watch. It's like really short, but you could see that the fire in Mr. T come out. Like that was the bouncer Mr. T, and he was about to whoop somebody's ass.
Did he leave his seat?
He was standing up a little bit, yeah. Like, there's Robin there and everybody. It's a funny video. But that just goes to prove the point that Mr. T is Mr. T all the time. And he was like, you cannot say that. Like, there's no way that I would allow that to happen with kids around. You know, that's what I got from it. He was so upset that anybody would say that about him, that could even have a possibility of happening, you know? But on the other hand, did you know that he, like, so when he was working as a bouncer and he started to get all this fame, you know, and he started and getting money and stuff from working these jobs of various types, he would go and start hanging out with, I believe it's Don Magic Juan, right? You know who I'm talking about?
Like the pimp?
Yeah, the
Or
pimp.
the former pimp. Now, spiritual, I don't know what he does, man, but pimping, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, the same guy that hangs out with Snoop, right? Doesn't Don Magic Juan hang out with Snoop?
Yeah.
Sometimes, yeah. No, he was into that. Like, not only he looked out for the kids and always did what his mama said and did right by his mom, but he did love to party.
He's from Chicago, bro. Chicago was like the land of the players. You know what I'm saying? How can you be from Chicago now? A little bit player in you. And he's in the club
Yeah.
scene and stuff like that. So yeah. You know what I'm saying? That just makes Mr. T a very well-rounded person.
Yeah, exactly. Well, and that was back in, like, you know, 75 or something, you know, and the disco scene was popping, you know, hey, how could you, you know, he's like, you know, 20 in his 20s or early 30s, you know, at that point. I'm not doing the math. That's for other comedians. But no, I thought that was cool, you know. It was like, wow, this guy was a true celebrity and really living it up and having a good time, you know. But he kept good morals through his entire stint, you know, or at least, you know, well, you make mistakes, but
Well, you know what? I put it like this, man. He gave so much to the game. Because just talking about this just makes me think like, damn, like Mr. T really was a big part of he was a big part of the 80s, bro. He was the 80s. And because just A-Team alone, I don't know if you were into the A-Team, but that was the show we could not miss. Period. It was like you cannot miss the A-Team. He had a cereal. He had a cartoon. You couldn't escape Mr. T in the 80s. If you wanted to, he's everywhere.
Oh, Mr. T he was probably, well, I don't know. He generated so many different aspects. He wasn't just an actor. You know, he had all the merchandising, and he did a lot of work for, you know, the Children's Hospital and stuff. And he did, like, I don't know if it was the Make-A-Wish Foundation, but he would always go, like, when kids would request, I just want to meet Mr. T, or I want to hang out with the set with Mr. T. Like, he made those things happen. And there was somebody who talks, like, he had a kid on the set with him, and when he was done acting, he'd be like, where's Bobby at? Let's find Bobby. And he would go and have lunch with them, and that kid would spend the whole day, not like 10 or 15 minutes, like the whole day with Mr. T. He's still doing stuff. Like, he's on Cameo. You know, I think it's like $20, and Mr. T will send a message to somebody for you or something like
Oh,
that.
word?
Yeah.
Oh man, I gotta check that out. Now
I looked at Dolph Lundgren's charging $350, but Mr. T, I think it was $20.
Man, I would rather have Dolph Lundgren, Mr. T. That's not even a contest.
No, I was just saying that Mr. T's like, you know, he keeps his messages on Cameo affordable for the common man. You know. I actually thought that was cool, and I watched a few of them. I was like, man, this guy is still 100% Mr. T. You know?
Damn. Okay, I gotta check that out.
So I'm trying to think where I left off in the line. This happens a lot on History and whatever. Like, the timeline gets lost. But I kind of like that too, because where we went is really funny as hell. And also, it's just like, most of this stuff I had no idea that Mr. T even did. You know.
Yeah, that's the wild part about it, man. Because this conversation, I don't, man. Savage Henry is, who knows, man. It was a great festival, man. But I don't even know why we were talking about Mr. T in the first place. But somehow that conversation led to this, and I think that overall is dope because I know more about Mr. T than I know more now than I did before we started this podcast. And the people listening to this podcast are going to have hella stuff to go on YouTube to try to find.
Oh yeah, because that was one of my most fun things that I did was just watching these different clips of Mr. T on actually Mr. T on Conan. Watch everything with Mr. T and Conan. That is the funniest shit. I laughed and laughed, especially in the year 2000 with Conan and Mr. T. There's one where they go to an apple orchard and pick apples. There's one where Mr. T shows Conan around Chicago. It's freaking hilarious. Well, not only that, like the stuff that he's done, that's more recent. But I guess in 2014, he was inducted into the WWE Hall of Fame as a wrestler because he wrestled he wrestled with like Hulk Hogan was a teammate, I think, and he had a bunch of matches. And one of the matches, I guess Muhammad Ali was actually the ref for one of the matches.
Whoa.
Right?
Yeah, man. Yeah. Interesting life, man. He's one of the people. Like, so, now, I don't know if I don't want to take you off track again. I don't want to take you off track again, so go ahead and get this line of thought. Because I do have a question, though.
Oh, yeah. Go. No, don't worry about the track. That's my job to somehow steer it back. So go for it.
So, now, would you consider yourself like an 80s kid? What's your age group?
No, I was born in 88, so I'm 35. I'm a 90s, early 90s
Okay.
kid.
So yeah, so my older brother is 10 years older than me. So the difference in between, so that's what we okay. So
Well,
there
you
was
would have got the A Team on TV as it premiered, like the new episodes as they came out, right?
yeah, we but there was because we talked about Dolph Lundgren. I was thinking like, you know what, there was Mr. T, and this is just amongst the people I talk about stuff. It was Mr. T, and there was I'm gonna say the most popular like people like in our circle. Mr. T, Mike Tyson,
Mm-hmm.
Michael Jordan, Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Oh yeah,
Like those four. Oh, and maybe John Claude Van Damme. Kind of like honorable mention. You know,
yeah. Well, he wasn't quite as big an action star as basically the rest of them.
but dude, those four, like any of those people, man, like if they did anything, we were on it. Sylvester Stallone too. Also,
Oh yeah, Stallone, because everybody Rocky, those movies were gigantic. And that's what made him, Mr. T the biggest star that he is because of the A Team, and Rocky 3 was before the A Team. So
yeah.
that's what did it for the most part. That's what he's most well known for. And
Who-
that's where I Pity the Fool came from too, is that movie.
I wonder like why he didn't make any more movies or made any more TV shows. He just kind of just like,
So he did a bunch of stuff, but a lot of them just fell so flat that nobody ever heard of him.
oh
So there is there is a movie that he was in. I believe it was called Freaked. Oh, I'm gonna look it up right now. But he played the bearded lady in this movie.
Oh, what?
Yeah. He
No.
and he did some roles that were like voice acting roles as well. Um I guess Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs, he was the let me see. I think he was the let me see here. I just don't want to get it wrong, but yeah, he did some voice acting on that movie, and that movie Freaked what came out in the '80s, and it was like it just didn't go anywhere in the box office. But yeah, he was the bearded Levy in that movie.
But Mr. T was a voice in Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs.
Yeah, yeah.
Who was what? Huh? I've seen that.
Here, let me look that up.
That's new.
Yeah, because I think he does some like other acting. Um, but yeah, voice acting you wouldn't notice. I guess it's. Oh yeah, he was like the police officer in that movie, I think.
Oh no, I don't remember that.
Yeah.
But I'm gonna go look for it too.
Oh yeah, I've got it on IMDb right now because there's a whole bunch of roles that he was in that like nobody knew that he was in it. Like I guess there's one episode of Johnny Bravo he's in. Um, well, WrestleMania, you know. Let me see. There's not a whole lot there's nothing that really hit big, you know.
Right. Well,
And there was a TV show too.
What, Mr. T in it?
Yeah, and it lasted like 10 episodes or something like that.
Like a sitcom?
Yeah, it was like a sitcom, and he tried to change his like appearance. He like cut all of his hair off, he shaved his beard, he stopped wearing the gold and stuff. And that show just never went anywhere. So, looks like he did 2 episodes on Suddenly Susan. Um you know, he's got a voice acting on The Simpsons. So he did a bunch of stuff. It's just that nobody really knew it was Mr. T or that it was just kind of stuff that didn't hit big. Uh, you know.
He's still our top guy.
Oh, well, the thing is he's actually he did you know that he got cancer at one point? That's why he like
and he beat cancer.
Yeah.
He beat cancer, dude. Like how tough is that?
Yeah, he did, and it went into the tough persona that he has. I guess he got like T-cell lymphoma or non-Hodgkin's lymphoma, and he even said he was like, "Oh, I get the T." He made jokes about how it was tailored to him, but yeah, he just fell off the map for a long time because of that. And when he came back, he was back on it. He did in 2017, he did Dancing with the Stars, and all the money that he got from that, like he didn't win, but the money that he was paid, he gave to the St. Jude's Children's Hospital and the Shriners Hospital.
Well, that's what's up.
Yeah, he really was he's a very genuine person, it seems.
As far as your show, like is this the first like do you usually do like historical figures, like what kind of people do you usually talk about?
As far as the pod goes,
Yeah, is it more pop culture or like historical or just a mixture of both?
It's really history, kind of like the first episode, 2 episodes I did was the East India Company. So the East India Company got its charter from Queen Elizabeth in 1601 and went over and started trading in India. So I did like the East India Company all the way through to where it ended in the 1700s, and that was 2 episodes. I did the second half with comedian Abhishek Kulkarni, who's Eugene comedian. But I don't limit that because I did another episode where it was Leanne Jesway, and we just talked about her history in town, of building the scene here in Eugene. And there was another one where I did, it was like local history of a band called Wapner County. So I'm about history in all of its forms, really. And I just found out. I remember talking to you and just like laughing to the point that I had tears in my eyes because we were just going back about Mr. T, and you enlightened me about like this guy was for real. Like those gold chains, that was 40 pounds of gold, and it took him like an hour and a half to 2 hours to put it on every day.
That's dedication.
Serious. And what sparked this was just that conversation, man. You were like, no, he really got those fools because he beat those fools up and snatched their chains and put them on because he bounced them out of the club. And that is, I looked it up, and that is the truth, man.
Yeah, that was, yeah, man. This is he's an interesting dude, man. Iconic, man.
Oh, yeah. And he's still, I guess to this day, he's like a minister, and he's still
like turned his life over to Christ.
Oh well, I'm pretty sure he was. He's been with Christ since the beginning. So.
I mean, yeah, I guess that's a good way to look at it. But that's good. Because look what he been through.
Oh well. What I really do appreciate about Mr. T is the fact that even through all of his Hollywood years or whatever you want to say, this guy has remained true to himself and true. He took care of his mom. Like he told her that he was going to buy her nice dresses and a house, and he did that, and he even stopped wearing his gold after Hurricane Katrina because he felt like those people have lost everything and it wasn't right to continue to wear the gold, as much as he was. So he took it off. And, I mean, just he's a good guy all around, and it's worthy of history. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I think that's pretty cool. That's why I asked. I was like, man, you know what? Like, this dude made a big impact. And I didn't even realize what kind of impact it made. Because I told one of my cousins I was gonna be doing a podcast on Mr. T. He was like, "What?" So we got to talking about it, and the more we talked, I was like, you know what? Yeah, this was a. I mean, he was up there with like Michael Jordan, like at some point. Like he was the dude.
Oh well, yeah, he's one of the most famous celebrities worldwide, that I know of, and anybody who lived through the 80s and early in the 90s, man, you know who Mr. T is.
That's true. Like that, you have to know. Like unless you were, I don't know, even if you were locked up, you would know who Mr. T was. There's no way.
Oh, of course. And the other thing is like he has produced so much merchandising that's ubiquitous too. Like, there was a couple of guys that I was watching these videos. They have the largest collection of Mr. T memorabilia in the world, and one of them was showing off his Mr. T tattoos, and they talked about how, that they had in their lives their parents were, or like one of these guys, his parents were bikers, and they had drugs around all the time, and Mr. T was the one person in his life, even though he was on TV saying don't use drugs, don't drink alcohol, and he didn't do those things either to be a good example. And I mean, geez, there's very few individuals who are actors or in that big spotlight who have that kind of dedication to morality,
Yeah, you're right.
And, just being a true person, being a real person, being, not lying to people. Interesting to learn,
Like,
I'm kind of interested.
Where do you go now? Like after you.
Yeah. Well, I was wondering, like, what were you guys talking about? Like, were you just reminiscing about all the A-Team episodes or
A
something? You
lot
were
of it,
talking with your
yeah, I'll tell you straight up. A lot of it is the A-Team van. Like the van is iconic, right? So we were talking about that, and we were talking about the van because that was one of the favorite things about it. Like it was about that A-Team van. Like, and it was B.A. Baracus's van. It was his shit. So
Oh yeah, he always drove.
right, and then it has like that black van with the red stripe, or I think it was black and gray two tone. But that van was dope as we always wanted that van. So we talked about that, and we talked about the chains. I told my cousin about the thing about the bouncer, and he didn't know that. So I know he's not the cousin I talked to, but he didn't know. He was like, "What?" I was like, "Yeah, man, those are trophies."
Oh yeah. Well, I mean, and everybody has done the voice. You know, I have somehow avoided doing the Mr. T voice until now, but I don't know if I'll make the whole episode, even though we're kind of coming to the end here. I don't want to hold you up for too much longer. I've had you on here for a while as it is, but you know, we could get lost talking about Mr. T because this guy was just he did everything his way, you know, and it really worked out for him, and he's still doing fine his way these days.
No, that's dope. I'm happy to hear that he's still doing stuff. I didn't know about the cameo thing because they're very interesting. That is really
Oh
interesting.
yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
I might have to take advantage of that. I just don't know who's worthy enough. Maybe I'll just send it to myself.
I was thinking about that. I was thinking about asking him to tell me that I'm really funny and that I'm doing a great job and keep it up.
Hey, if it's $20, man, get it and have him do a drop for the podcast about him.
I might do that. I might do that. Maybe I'm pretty sure it was $20.
I was like, yeah, that's kind of like, man, that's
Because that was my first thought. I was like, well, for that I could totally do that, you know. And I didn't even know that this was a thing. Like I think I had heard about Cameo, but what a smart idea. I thought like, wow, you just hook up people with folks who really want to, you know, see the people they've been watching on TV forever. Or
you know what? I've heard of it, I've seen it, but like the people I've seen on the advertisements are people that I've never even thought of. Like going like, oh, like maybe your favorite actor from back in the day or somebody, you know what I'm saying, is doing something like this because that's kind of cool. Like even shoot, Ferris Bueller or somebody crazy like that. George Costanza.
yeah,
You know what I'm saying? What if he's on there?
well, it's like that's what is kind of funny about this. Oh, I guess maybe he's temporarily unavailable at the moment for personalized videos, but the message is $20, and you know, you also might like Dolph Lundgren. You know, Michael Ian Black. I don't know why Michael Ian Black is connected to that, but you know, these guys, Dolph Lundgren 350, Michael Ian Black's 85. You know, Mr. T keeping it affordable. You know what I mean? He's got a bunch of videos on here.
Oh, you could pick one of those videos.
Oh, I get. These are just like examples. I think. I don't know.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I need to check that out. I'm definitely.
Well, all right, man. I'm gonna let you go here. But thanks for coming on and talking about Mr. T, and being on History and whatever. So, Dejan Tyler, check out the album "Get Rich or Diabetes" wherever you can find albums.
Streaming everywhere.
Streaming everywhere.
Yes, thank you. Thank
right.
you for having me, man. This has been dope. I got some YouTube to do. Anybody listening to this, I'm pretty sure you're right on the YouTubes after this. You should be. It's out there.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, yeah. Go and watch Mr. T and Conan. That is one of the funniest things that I watched those and was thoroughly enjoyed. You know, I thoroughly enjoyed all of it. I watched a bunch of them. They're so funny. So, yeah, I'll let you go check out some Mr. T videos. And all right, man. Well, thank you so much for joining me on the phone here from Sacramento. And hey, good luck with your upcoming shows. Is there any big shows you got coming up you want to put on the end here,
Let me.
or you got anything
I'm just
going
coming
on?
off of a good run. Next month I got some things going on. Yeah, next month, April, I got a lot going on in April. So check out my Instagram, dtyler916, on my Facebook page. Facebook, just type my name in Facebook, I'll come up. Dejan Tyler. You can see I post my shows there, so you can see my schedule. April's looking, it's gonna be interesting, man. We got some pretty cool shows coming up in April.
Hey, all right. Well, sounds great. Make sure to follow Dejan Tyler. All right, man. Well, I'm gonna let you go. Thank you so much for being on the show. I'll get a hold of you soon. You gonna be at Savage this year?
Yeah. Oh, definitely, man. After the first time, man, I'm not missing a year if I can't help it.
Oh yeah, no, it was seriously a blast. Last year was my first year. I'd been to the club before, but not for the festival. So uh, that'll be in October.
Yes, sir. I'll see you there.
All right, man. Well, thank you so much, and have a good night, man. We'll catch up
All
soon.
right. Peace.